what is the most toxic message associated with homelessness? And for this one, I had to do some digging. But here's what I think it is. We have a ranking system in our culture where the people at the top of the pyramid have fame, money, political power, are desirable sex objects, and are highly intelligent and, university educated, and, have either political power or, power in a company, etc., in a leadership position. Now, these are all external traits, and they are predisposed to, continue hereditarily, meaning if your parents or, grandparents are millionaires and heads of companies or in film, the odds of you being a child of a film star and being a film star are, probably about, 100 times higher than if you just decide, like many do, that you want to go into film. So there's a tendency for, whether it's political power or monetary influence or fame, and with those, to a certain degree, top university degrees, to be passed down. So we have a pecking order of rank in our culture, who we pay attention to, that are based on these external factors. And we can tell, obviously, if you have this, if you've got good looks, intelligence, run a company, have lots of money, and are famous, you'll be way up there, and maybe you'll run for office and succeed in office on those metrics. We've had Reagan, we've had Trump, we've had Schwarzenegger, not necessarily showing a great deal of competency. I think Schwarzenegger is the best of those three in terms of actually being hardworking and running a business, but not necessarily demonstrating political competency, but able to be elected because of their high stature in money, in fame, and in to a certain degree in education, a certain degree. So the way that you tell the distinction of how a culture values its people is you strip away all that ranking. So you take Ronald Reagan or any other person, and you strip away their looks, you strip away their money, you strip away their fame, and you strip away their their pedigree or college education. So you strip this away, and then you see how much would that same being, that same consciousness, be valued without those ranking indicators. And our homeless people are actually a great indicator of that, because they're not famous, they don't have any money, some have education, some don't. They're not particularly good looking in an unshowered state, and so you've stripped everything but their humanity from them. You're just dealing with a human being who's trying to survive. And the question is, how highly is their humanity valued in that condition? And you can see how valuable it is. The police don't bother our rich and famous and tell them to move along and this and that and the other wherever they're residing, but our homeless are. People pay attention to our famous people. Oh, there's so-and-so, and people ignore and turn away from our homeless people. And so it's actually a great indicator of a great indicator of just how valuable our humanity is as opposed to our trappings. And the thing about this is the brain is an integrity creating machine. And so when we see a homeless person, any of us, existing day after day, we know that 10,000 cars have driven by that individual who clearly needs help, and no help succeeded in getting through. It would be, I guess, one way to say it. Because if it did, we wouldn't see him there anymore. And if we valued it, we'd be the one getting out and figuring out what they need, right? So this is a metric of how our core humanity is treated. And the fact that they're still there and increasing in number gives a very low value to the core humanity in every human being. Now, what does that do to a brain that understands that we're really no different other than our ranking within the culture? It makes it very clear to you and I that if, let's say, a boiling pot of hot water was to wash away, my natural facial features. Let's say someone rammed into me sideways shortly after that, and it was an uninsured motorist, and my back was broken, and I had a $200,000 medical bill. And let's say that the job I was in couldn't deal with a disfigured face and certainly had no interest in a $200,000 medical bill, so I lose my job. Well, now, all the importance that I think I have because I'm a person, because I work hard, because I've done my best, vanishes as I realize that means nothing. I'm that uncomfortable person on the side of the road that everyone resents for existing because I remind them of their own lack of character in showing up in the fifth wealthiest county of the United States for our people. And that's such a bad and miserable situation. So there's a fair amount of suicide in the United States, and this is a pretty big thing. That we're able to treat each other as human beings at such a low level of decency and compassion that unlike crocodiles, unlike snakes, unlike horses, unlike cows, who we treat, like absolute shit, they're not killing themselves. But when you add in the psychological abuse of shame and torment, we literally drive a percentage of our people, and in the case of teenagers, suicide the second leading cause of death. And one of the reasons could be that they look out and they're not sure in this crazy, dynamic economy, they're not sure they're going to be able to afford that $1 million home. They're not sure they're going to enjoy, doing the work that they're going to have to do to climb rank. And they don't want to be treated like absolute garbage because they don't have that rank. It's easier to pull the trigger. So there is a real cost. And I think the most toxic message boils down to you're not worth fighting for. You're not worth our protection and our support unless you have money.